So we're all doing swell. I thought of Reverend Kusla this morning. Just as I was leaving, I have a brilliant cat. He's a little bit of a Dickens. His name is Beau, B-E-A-U. But he is a smart little guy, and when he's hungry, he knows the little cabinet where I have the food, so he goes and he fusses with the cabinet. I'm like, dude, you've got a whole dish full of food. Come on now. And he's like, so I go back and I'm typing up my notes, and he's digging. I'm like, all right already. So I go in there, I go, what's going on? And I look down, and there's like a bazillion ants. So the ants were all in his food. And I thought of Reverend Kusla because he was saying, kill nothing. And I thought, well, just this once. I mean, because, there's a whole, there was a whole trail of them, and they were coming in through the back door. I mean, I thought, oh my gosh. And so as I was driving here, I thought, well, Mary, you could have swept them out the door. There's a lot of things you could have done, but instead of grabbing the Windex. But so I blessed them as they went on their way, because it just is what it is. So up there, there was like a million of them. So, and I thought of you, Marie, because I just was listening to a rendition of Never Never Land again. Yes, indeed. So I'll have to get you a copy. So today, I, of course, had something completely different planned, and then last night I got this idea. I've been, right now I'm between jobs. I'm looking for a job, sort of looking for a job, helping Reverend Martha and looking for a job. But while I'm doing that, there are so many online workshops that are free. I don't know, do any of you take advantage of those at all? Go and look. Oh my gosh, every day I'm taking a workshop. So I've discovered this gal, and her name is Mel Robbins. Has anybody heard of her? She's a life coach, and she had been a trial lawyer, and she was inspired by Martha Beck. And Martha Beck, you may know, is she writes a column in the Oprah magazine, and she was Oprah's personal life trainer. And I didn't know that Martha Beck influenced Mel Robbins, and I'd been listening to Mel Robbins and seeing different stuff. So I want to share a couple ideas today about Mel Robbins. But before I do, I wanted to read this quote. Every morning on the Minister Listserv, which is from the ministers all over the world, we each do a prayer treatment. People will do a prayer treatment every morning. And this was a quote from Ernest Holmes in this morning's prayer treatment. The mind is a magnet, and we attract that which we identify with as ourself. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn to consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. This is not easy, for our old thought patterns cling to us with great tenacity. But being thought patterns, they can be reversed. And I was thinking about that just in terms of life. When we think about things that happen with us, sometimes circumstances that happen to us are like the same old, like same ball game, just different players, like a repeat pattern. I was talking to a girlfriend that said, I always pick the wrong guys. And I'm like, and so it is. Because the moment you say that, you've just affirmed that for yourself. And I wasn't saying it admonishingly to her, because we all do stuff like that, don't we? We have habits that we go, oh, I did it again. I sprayed Windex on those ants and I could have swept them out the door, right? And whatever it is, we do it. But the important thing is to pay attention to it. Am I good? No. He's making... I'm fine. Okay, just because I talk with my hands. Yes. Good thing, let's swiping someone up here. The thing is that we all have habits, don't we? We all have things that we do that if we were mindful of them, if we paid attention to them, we might be able to shift them, right? Shift them from whatever. Well, there is, I wasn't going to start with this, but I am going to start with this. I heard this story about a student, and the student was working towards, he was real brilliant, and he was in this physicist class, and the professor said, we're going to give a final, and whoever passes gets the highest grade with the final. You'll get to be studying with me over the summer. This is going to be a real event, and just to study with this guy was like a real reaffirm. So George made up his mind that he was going to do that. He was going to get the highest grade. So the final's coming up, and he oversleeps. And he wakes up, he's like, oh my God. So he goes racing to the classroom to take the final. And when he comes in, they're taking, they're doing the test. He hands George the test, and there's 2 questions written on the board. So he takes the test, and he's scrambling through, and, he gets through 1 through 5, and he's doing okay, and he's watching the other students like everybody, people are finishing their test and getting up and leaving. So he's like, you know what? Someone's got to get the highest grade in this class. Why not me? Someone's got to get it, because he really wanted, his goal was, he wanted to study with this professor. So over the summer, and this was a real advantage for him in terms of his career. So he said, I really want to do that, so I'm going to get the answers. So he keeps going and going and going, and finishes the test. And then he looks at the 2 questions on the board, and they're bonus questions. So he's like, I'm going to do the bonus questions, because then I'm going to get the ace in this class. So he answers the first question. It's really tough, and he's trying to figure it out, works out all these formulas, gets question number 1, but he can't get question number 2. So he's stuck, and he's stuck, and he's stuck. So all of a sudden the professor said, okay, the time is up, but I'll take you all on your word. You can take those 2 questions home with you. And you can work on them and turn them in by the end of the week. So he's like, okay. So he goes home, and he's like, well, someone's going to answer these questions right, and it can be me, because I want to study with this guy. You get the drift that his goal is he wants to study with this man, not just pass the test. So he works on it, and so finally he figures out answer number 2. He figures it out. He gets it all worked out, does all these formulas and works it all out, runs it to the professor's office, turns it in, and the guy says, okay, you made the deadline, you're okay, you did good. So he's in the dorm, and it's like over the weekend. He gets on the door, and he opens the door, and it's the professor. And he goes, George. And he goes, yes. And he goes, you came late to the class. And he goes, yes, sir, I did. I'm sorry I overslept. I don't know how it happened. He goes, I understand that. He goes, but you didn't hear the instructions. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. Did I blow something? I turned him in on time and everything. He said, no, George, the test was the test, and that's what I'm basing, this extra summer, stay with me on. He goes, but the 2 questions are on the board. I said, if you want to have fun for the rest of your life, here are 2 questions that Einstein himself could never answer. So if you want to prepare for your whole life, try and answer this. He goes, and George, you answered the questions. You did what Einstein couldn't do. And he was like, oh my gosh. So of course he got the fellowship to study with the professor. But the idea behind it was that it wasn't just about passing the test. It was about the goal, looking from the goal. Like, I want to study with this guy. This will be an exceptional opportunity for me, right? So that's a great lesson for all of us, isn't it? It isn't just about getting something done. It's about, what is it going to bring you? Does it bring you what you want? To that end, I've been watching these workshops with Mel. Actually, they're interviews. They're more interviews, not a workshop. She does have workshops, but they're interviews. And she talks about manifesting. Now, in religious science, when we talk about manifesting, we think about it in terms of, oh, I've manifested a car, I've manifested a cat, I've manifested a job, right? It's about actually producing something. In fact, the dictionary says, clear or obvious eye of the mind or mind, readily perceived by the senses, easily understood or recognized by the mind, and obvious, like I produced something. But Mel Robbins talks about manifesting, as preparing your mind, your body, and your spirit to do the work to achieve the things you want. Feel the difference? To do the work to achieve the things that you want. That's the art of manifesting versus I manifested this, right? So in religious science, we talk about, there is first and foremost, what we do is what? We acknowledge God. Right? We start with God because God is our source. And it's that I of myself do nothing. I'm doing it with the power that works through me, right? So we acknowledge God. We acknowledge our oneness with God. And so therefore we acknowledge that we're co-creators with God. And from there, we declare what it is we want, right? We say what it is we want. Now, the biggest rub of that is knowing what you want, isn't it? Sit down, like I've got some, and I'm going to ask, if we have time, if you want copies, Mel Robbins has a little sheet that she has for a journal for you to work out, to settle your body, think about what it is you want, and write down 5 things that you want, and then you visualize them. We'll go through all the steps. But could you write down 5 things that you want right now? I mean, really, really want? I think that's the first issue, is a lot of folks don't know what they want. Or if they think about what they want, they're like, yeah, I want to have prime rib for dinner tonight, right? Or I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, so knowing what it is you want is the first thing. So in prayer, we declare that, right? And not only do we declare that, we also declare, you know what, if there's anything stopping or blocking that thing from showing up in my life, I'm going to let that go. Right? So that's the other one. And then we go, thank you. I'm already seeing myself receiving it. And then you bless it and let it go. You release it. You release it so that the universe will kind of do its magic and work. So Mel Robbins gives some ideas about, here's the process of manifesting. First, give yourself permission to have what you want. Right? So it's okay to, we think of small things, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. We have that believability. But what if it's something really big? What if it's something that's completely out of your range? Like, I want to be able to run a marathon, and you've never run a marathon before, or whatever it is. Think of something that's big. First, what you have to do is give yourself permission to want it, right? And in that sense of permission of wanting it is a sense of deservability, isn't it? Like, hey, I deserve to have this, and it's okay for me to want this. The next thing is, see yourself taking the steps to do the work to get the thing that it is that you want. And it's like, well, wait a second. So she does give an example of a marathon runner. So say you're going to run a 5K, and you've never run a 5K before. And you think, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do. Okay, see yourself going to the store and buying the shoes you're going to need. See yourself warming up. See yourself getting up in the morning and getting ready to do your practice run. See yourself doing breathing techniques or strengthening your body or whatever it is. Don't just see the finish line. See the whole process, like vision the whole thing, right? The whole idea, and get your body into it. And then it will become more real to you. The third thing is, it's that now that you've put it out in the universe, you can't just sit back there. You can't just say, okay, this is what I want. Okay, bring it to me. And a lot of times we do that, don't we? We say, okay, I want to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and God, you do it. No, no, no. Dr. Frank had that beautiful saying, treat and move your feet, because you have to do action. You have to be active about it, right? Next thing is, feel in your body what it feels like to have the thing that you want. I don't know about you, but I kind of leave that one out. I sometimes forget that one. And you can close your eyes and just imagine, what is it like? Say, somebody yell out something that they want. Not all at once, though, because then it would sound like no noise at all. What is it? Traveling. You want to travel. Okay. So say you want to travel, but you have to, where do you want to travel? I mean, you could be traveling to the police office to pay a ticket. I mean, where do you want to travel? Africa. Okay. Perfect. So now you've got a picture of Africa in your mind, right? You could look up pictures on the internet. You could listen to interviews of people that had gone on it. You could go explore different tours where they do the things and where you would want to go, and then feel it. Like, sit in there and hear a lion roaring, or hear the birds in the forest. You know what I'm saying? Like, get into the feeling of it. And a lot of times I think we kind of, I don't know about you, but I've kind of not done that very much. So if you get into the feeling of it, what does that do? It makes it more real, doesn't it? If you're actually going into a thing where you're feeling like it, like, okay, so think about the ride in Disneyland, what's the one? Jungle Cruise, very good. So imagine you're on Jungle Cruise, right? So for a moment, you're transported and you're in the jungle. Not really, I mean, because there's some crazy little characters in there, but you know what I'm saying? Or when you're on the Star Wars ride, right? You're in space, right? Why do we like those rides? Because we're immersed in it. We feel like we're in it. You walk out, now I don't think anybody goes out like, oh yeah, let me go get my lightsaber. But I mean, the deal is it feels real to us. And guess what? The mind doesn't know the difference between your imagination and what's real. So what we think about, what we feel, what we actually embody in our mind can actually come more into fruition. And I bet every single one of you in this room have done that in some way, shape, or form. You've created something in your experience because you were so immersed in getting it. I could tell a story on myself that when I was a kid, my mom always says, boy, I hope you have a kid just like you are. And I thought, oh God. When I was a kid, we had just bought me some brand new patent leather shoes. And we went to this store. We were walking somewhere, and we walked by this store, and in the window was a Raggedy Ann doll. Well, next thing you know, pew! I'm in the window of the store, swiped the Raggedy Ann doll, and ran down the aisle with it. My mother walks in the store, and she's like, oh my God. And the guy goes, I think your daughter has a doll from the window. And she's like, Mary, you've got to give the doll. I said, I'm not going home until I get this doll. And my mother's like, Mary, you've got to put that doll down. I'm like, I'm not going home. I kicked off those shoes. I go, you can have the shoes. I want the doll. I got the doll, but I think I also got a spanking. But the deal is, you know, when you're that determined, I have to take a look at that, make sure that I don't sabotage myself now, because wanting what you want, you get punished for it, right? You got to take that out of your consciousness. But the thing is that when you want what you want, you know what it is, don't you? You absolutely know what it is. And therefore, you make a beeline to create everything possible. And think about it in terms of prayer. Think about it in terms of this teaching. Our philosophy says, you know what? The universe always supports you, but it can only support you to the level that you're playing, that you're in the game, right? So if you're not fully invested in whatever it is you want, what's the result? A half-baked result. And when you get a half-baked result, then people go, see, I never win. I never win any contest. See, that she always wins, and I never win any contest. In fact, you guys, as an aside, look up Helen Hedsel. She's a woman that has won every contest that she has subscribed to. She's won every single one. It was years ago, but if you look online, she wins every contest because she said, I have a winning consciousness. She's won cars and houses and all kinds of stuff, trips, money, everything, because she goes, I have a winning consciousness. And I thought, you know what? She knows it versus, now feel the difference of this, no wishing. You know why you don't wish? What is wish? I jumped ahead, but I'll tell you what wish is once I find it. What is wishing? Wishing is to feel or express a strong desire or hope for something that is not easily attainable. To want something that cannot or probably will not happen. To feel or express a desire to do something. But wishing amplifies the not having, right? Because it's the hope for this. I hope for this. Well, when you're in that hope mode, right? When you're just hoping for something, it's almost away from you. It's not there. And what we want to do is come from the dream, come from the want, to create it from our already knowing that it's not only possible, but it's going to happen, right? So back to our steps there. So first you're giving yourself permission, then you're taking the steps to do what it is to create the thing that you want. Like, say you decided you wanted to change your career and you wanted to be a legal secretary or you wanted to be a lawyer, okay? So first, I'm thinking legal secretary, so you wouldn't have to go to law school, and that would take longer, but you could still do it, right? But then you'd have to research, what does a legal secretary require? What does it require to be in that? What kind of field of law do I want to be in? And then you immerse yourself in it. Say you want to be a great baker. What would you do? Say you stunk at baking. You said, you know what, I stink at baking. I want to get better at it. What would you do? What? You'd intern, you'd read about it, you'd go look online, you'd go study with someone that's a baker, or you may find a friend that makes amazing chili like Betty and say, Betty, I want to watch you make your chili because it's fantastic and mine always stinks, okay? You learn by doing, right? So you take the actions to do it. Then the next thing, you're feeling it. You're feeling it in your body like, wow. You can even feel like people saying to you, hey, I really like that baking you did. You did such a great job. I've never had anything that tasted so good. You're like, okay. The fourth is take action to produce the results that you want. And part of that is commending yourself for the little successes that you have. I think sometimes we forget to pat ourselves on the back. I don't know if it was grained into us that that you shouldn't do that, you're going to get arrogant or you're going to get a blown up head because of that. But the truth of it is, the moment that we acknowledge that things are working in our experience, what happens? More comes, doesn't it? Right? More comes because you're paying attention. It's important to pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Pay attention to what's happening in your experience and acknowledge it. Acknowledge it for what it is. And the moment that you do that, it will expound itself just because you've listened to it. So here's a couple of tricks of getting around manifesting. So understand again that Mel Robbins' way of looking at manifesting is that it's a process. It is a procedure. It is a procedure to get you into the actions to create the thing that you want versus making that thing happen, right? So manifesting it's a process, right? So here's some things that to get out of if you're stuck. If you're stuck about manifesting, you say, I can't manifest anything. First of all, see someone else doing it. You know, we may not acknowledge for ourselves that something is warranted in our life, but we can see it for our friends, can't we? Oh, I'll never win the lottery, but I could see you winning the lottery. I could see you getting that great job. I could see you baking and winning the bake-off, right? We can see it for other people. So see it. See somebody else doing it in your mind. See somebody else doing it. And when you see somebody else doing it and you're cheering them on in your mind, think about the things that you would say to them for them to create, they're manifesting whatever it is they want, right? So you see them doing it. Sometimes we visualize ourselves doing something like a new job and we say, there's no way I can do it, right? All of a sudden we're stumped like, what do I do? What do I do to get there? Well, what would your friend do? And Mel Robbins says that she watched Martha Beck speaking. And she said at the time, she had been a life coach for 2 years. She didn't really have a lot of clients. And she's watching Martha Beck on stage, who's got 1 million clients. She's on a big stage. She's written a book. She's writing for the magazine. She's Oprah's life coach, blah, blah, blah. She goes, and here I am. I'm nobody. And I'm sitting in an audience of like 5,000 people. And I'm going nowhere. So what she did was, she pictured, well, what did Martha Beck do to get where she got? What did she do? And if I can see it happening for her, maybe I can see it happening for myself. Does that make sense? I think so. You know, you kind of look and say, well, they did it. If it's something you really want, you can put your energy behind it. Yeah, you say, what would they do? Your mind is designed to get you what you want. Your mind, my mind, is designed to get us what we want. But if we're always saying, oh, no, thanks, or, you know what, I've never been able to do that. You know, I remember, think about when you were riding a bike, when you first learned to ride a bike. I can remember learning, I'm the youngest of three, and I was watching my brother and sister ride bikes, and they were so good at it. They were really good at it. My sister had a really cool bike. My brother had an even cooler bike, and I couldn't even get off the frickin' training wheels. I'm like, ugh. Every time we do, my knees probably have scars on them from all the wipeouts that I did. But I was like, I am determined. So I was out there every day, no matter what happened, because I was going to ride that bike, because I wanted that blue bike. And I got it. I got it because I learned how to ride the bike. But think about the determination of a kid. You know, when we watch kids, somehow we lose that after we get older. But if you think of the determination of a kid to get stuff, I can remember, anybody ever begged their parents for a puppy? Oh my Lord. Can we have a puppy? Could we have a puppy? I'll take care of the puppy. You go on and finally they just relent and they're like, all right, you could have the puppy. You know, it's like, shut up. But you get the puppy because you knew what you wanted. You knew what you wanted. So our mind is designed to get us what we want as long as we don't sabotage it, as long as we don't stop it. When you tell your mind what you want, your mind has a live and ever-changing filter that goes to work to bring what it is that you want, right? So always, the moment that we put something into consciousness, right, we have just set that tone there. That's our prayer treatment. It's in the ethers now. Knowing what you want and wishing is very different. Again, wishing, you don't want to just wish for something. You know, oh, when I wish upon a star. No. When I know upon that star, when I know things are happening. Manifesting amplifies the power inside of you. And how does it do that? It does it because we all of a sudden begin to realize, once you have one baby win of a want, you all of a sudden begin to realize, hey, this stuff works. And I bet every one of you had made this stuff work in some way, haven't you? Like things happen in your life that you've created, and you've created it because you've wanted it. You've known it. You've done the homework. You've done the work. You've done the research. You've done everything. The biggest thing is, though, that here are the steps. You see it. You feel it. You know it in your body, and you believe it. The moment that you do that, all your self-doubt can go out the window. But the second you start to doubt yourself, right, you go backwards again. You go backwards, and things don't work out. So what are the holdups of not manifesting? Not knowing what you want, right? So the key is know what you want. The next one is you're inconsistent. If you're inconsistent about what it is you want, you go, oh, you know, last week I wanted that, but, you know, I'm starting to get a grip on reality here, and that is just not happening, right? Well, there it went, right out the window, because you were inconsistent. You didn't follow through on it. Next is form what you want from what you don't want, right? So say you've got a friend that says, I don't want one more yucky boyfriend. I don't want to work for one more jerk of a boss. I don't want one more lousy car that always breaks down. What happens? Where's your energy? The universe doesn't hear don't, okay? The universe hears lousy car, lousy boyfriend, jerky boss. Here's all that stuff, right? But sometimes knowing what you don't want helps you form what you do want. So instead you say, I see myself in a beautiful, loving, shared relationship with an amazing guy that's everything's working out. Or I see myself in this job where I'm totally loved and appreciated. I have amazing rapport with my boss. Or I have a car that works like a top. Everything goes perfect with the car. Feel the difference? You're in the more positive end. The second you go in the positive route, it creates a more positive thing. Sometimes we get impatient. Well, I treated last week and it's not here yet, so I guess it just ain't going to happen, right? So guess what? The moment that you determine what it is you want and you believe, you see it, you feel it, you believe it, the moment you do that, it's in universe's hands. And it will bring it to you in God's time, in God's time. And God's time is when you're ready, right? And we all know that, wow, if I had gotten that job 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready, but I'm ready now, right? So we've all had that. So don't be impatient. Just know that the universe is working on it, that it's cooking. Don't look only at the goal. Always look at the steps. Like, how am I building myself, my character, my idea, my want to the next goal, to the end goal? Oh, don't think you have all the answers. It's important to study. Keep studying. How did they do that? How did that baker achieve what she did? How did she know what a pinch was and a smidge? How did she know how to add that stuff? How did she know to go by taste? And then remember, I almost said don't. Take action. Sometimes the thing that holds us up is by not taking action. It's like we sit and wait for the thing to come like, any day now, come on, I did my thinking, I did my feeling, should be there. And then celebrate your wins. Celebrate your wins. So dream as though the sky's the limit, visualize it, feel it, see it, know it in your body, and then take action. And those are the keys to manifestation. And that concludes today's discussion.